Hi everyone, it's Sunday, September 25th, time for another HideNet Week in Review. I'm Vera Dordick. We'll start with the U.S. this week, where most very limited bids were also few and they were dollars too low, and in most cases buyers were pretty resistant to improving them. Once again, the overall price levels changed little, if at all, and it sounded like most sellers just wanted to keep the market steady right now, whatever that is. Heavy Texas steers were unchanged this week, remaining in a range from $26 to $29 for 62-64 pound selections. With regard to cow sellers, although at the start of the week they said interest was good, it seems to have faded somewhat and prices were indeed softer. Looking at the export totals for the week ending September 15th, combined export sales were 623,300, which is a good number, but they still did not exceed the week's slaughter total. Combined shipments for the week were decent at 581,500. And speaking of estimated slaughter for the week, it was identical to the previous one at 667,000, so very high. Turning to Europe, and obviously the big news there was Lineapelle, which ran Tuesday through Thursday. And as editor Andrea Guolo reported, from the standpoint of attendance and activity, it was a real success. From the perspective of sales and market, not so much. And even if finished leather prices can go up, which we hear they might, there's just no room for raw material increases given the rising costs of everything else in Europe, and especially energy. Otherwise, many prices were steady, but some have already started to trend downward. In the UK and Ireland, those were origins with steady prices. So the British 36 plus ox is still at 83 to 85 cents per kilo, and the Irish one at around €1 per kilo. European bulls, however, were the category to see some major price declines. Value at €1.20 to €1.25 per kilo for the 40 plus kilogram selections, but many other origins saw some significant price drops. European cows also saw prices decline, and that's particularly true for the lower end selections, which actually face a pretty bleak outlook right now overall. Meanwhile, in the veal sector, supply is still limited and demand is strong, and that actually allowed some origins to get increases during the fair on what were already high prices. In his analysis this week, Andrea sums up what happened at each day of the fair. Turning to South America, editor Ronald Guiel reports that raw material prices took a break from their relentless decline, and they managed to be stable this week. Fresh hides were unchanged at $1.61 per kilo, and the reference price of TR1 was also unchanged at 76 cents per square foot, although there are plenty of stories from Italy at the fair about prices being much lower. Other Latin origins were again stable during the week. In other news from Brazil, Chief Sustainability Officer, and the Brazilian participation in MyCam in Milan generated more than $32 million in business. From elsewhere in Latin America, in Argentina, Puma and two textile companies are investing $40 million in projects in La Rioja. In Mexico, the tannery industry is short on workers, especially for finishing. The next edition of ANPIC is coming up in October, also in Mexico, and in Uruguay, Frigorifico Rosario is resuming exports to China, hopefully in October. That is all we have for tonight, and until next week, good night from HideNet.